Ardent, New Jersey, connecting faith and life. And you are watching Real Faith TV. Woo!
I think every child deserves to know what it's like to be in a family and in a home with people that love them.
And I feel for the parent that it will just be a great moment to have a kid and to just love them and be with them all the time.
Well, in most cases, adoption is a win-win situation for both the parent and the child.
The best part about being adopted is probably being part of a family and feeling loved. You've been chosen by people that love and care for you.
You finally have someone in your life to take care of you.
A couple who's considering adopting a child, they're embracing God's gift of life that He grants to each one of us, and we should make the best of our ability to embrace life and adopt.
I feel like DNA doesn't define who your family is. So even if you're related to someone, you might not consider them family, and even if you're not related to someone, you could consider them family.
I think it's tough to accept the fact that you don't have your real birth parents, but being adopted shows that there are people in your life that actually do love you. I mean, you don't know the full story of what happened to your birth parents, so I think it's important to remember that and just keep reminding yourself of the fact that there are people in your life that do love you and want to be your parents and are there for you through all the difficult times.
I think adoption can be better promoted through general acceptance and awareness about how special the gift of life is and how it is important that we accept individuals as who they are and not where they come from, but who they aspire to be.
No two families in the world are exactly alike, just like there are no two people who are exactly alike.
Every family is unique. Every family history is unique.
And adoption is just one of the many unique ways families come together.
Chosen. We are all children of God. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Thomas.
And I'm Emily. And this is Real Faith TV. We'd like to thank the students of St. John Vianney High School in Holmdel, New Jersey for helping us open the show today.
And for sharing some of their views on adoption.
We'll talk with them more throughout the show as part of our wild card segments.
But first, let's meet our spotlight guest, Monique, who will share when she found out she was adopted.
As well as the struggle she encountered in accepting her situation.
I found out at age 7 that I was adopted. There were many occasions where I acted out. One of the occasions was I destroyed my room, and the reason behind that was I was on a visit with my birth parents, and I had found out that there was another daughter, and my dad had brought her to visit, and it made me really upset and angry that he could keep her but not me. And so I came home and acted and destroyed my room and broke a lot of stuff. It made me feel better in that moment. I felt rejected, I felt unwanted, and I felt unloved. Even though I was adopted, I struggled letting go of my parents because I didn't look the same as the family I was adopted into. So that was a hard struggle for me because people would look at me and be like, "Is this your daughter?" And the reason they'd ask was because I wasn't the same color as my family. Being adopted makes me feel like different. It makes me feel I have something to share with the world.
I think it's good to look on the bright side of things there, and she's saying she's different, but it's kind of in a good way.
Yeah, she's definitely special. Let's see what our studio guests have to say about the topic.
Okay, they are Michael,
Greta,
Grace,
Ella,
Naira,
and Drew. How do you think being adopted impacts the person's identity and how they view themselves?
Well, I think a lot of movies portray this where it's like the person will find out they're adopted and they'll feel like their whole world's been shaken because they feel like they've been lied to. But then it's almost like every movie resolves the same way where it's like that adopted family is your real family.
If you're told as a kid that you're adopted, I was told as a kid that I was adopted, that when you find out it's not really a huge difference. Sure, as a kid you have questions and all of that, but that just comes with being adopted.
I feel like adopted kids might struggle with a sense of identity or whether their families really love them or not?
Well, not to speak for everyone that's adopted, but I didn't really experience that in particular. But I did experience more of a curiosity towards, well, who are my parents? What were they like, you know? Just general things like that.
But like you were close with your adoptive family, right? Like they were your family because you knew from so young?
Yeah, I was actually adopted. I was 3 months old when I was adopted, so I don't have much memory of where I was adopted from. So it's interesting because they wanted me and they adopted me and brought me here.
I'm sure you can agree that being adopted is a wonderful way of being part of a family.
However, it is not without certain challenges.
For one reason or another, sometimes known, sometimes unknown, the biological parents were unable to care for their child.
This can result in feelings of rejection or unworthiness, like Monique experienced.
But what is often the case, the biological parents are making the best decision at the time for their child.
Decisions made out of love and a sincere hope for the child to receive better care than they were able to give.
Let's go back to our spotlight guest, Monique, where she'll talk about some of the memories she has of her upbringing before her adoption.
And how reflecting on those moments helps her to understand the difficult decision her biological parents had to make on her behalf.
Before I was adopted, I lived in my biological mother's house with 11 other children. It was a really just bad situation. Like, we lived on a river, by a river, and I was very afraid of water. And when we'd go over there for picnics, they'd scare us so that we wouldn't want to go near the water because they didn't really want to watch us. And there was really no carpets in that house, so there was just nails everywhere. So it was kind of like a game of watch out where the nail is so you wouldn't cut yourself. I remember there was not a lot of food that came into this house. There was one time that my father brought a large pizza home for 11 children, and everyone went after it. I had like a bite of one slice before it was ripped away from me, and someone else ate it. And then I remember in the 6 months before I was adopted, and I was still a foster child, I would always cry for my biological father because he was pretty much the one who took care of me the most and did everything for me when I was a young child. The house itself was just a bad situation, so I think that's another part of the reason that I was given up, because I couldn't live in that situation.
Oh, that's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. What are some of the unique issues that adopted persons deal with throughout their life?
Well, I think for starters that if you don't know your biological parents, I know I didn't, and my parents didn't, so it was the question of, wow, I wonder what they were like, who they were, what jobs they had, just general questions about them, you know?
I think an issue that adopted kids would face is a sense of identity of who they are. I think as teenagers, we often try to figure ourselves out, but I feel like adopted kids have an added pressure because they're comparing their lives and what they have now to what they could have had with their biological parents.
Mm-hmm. I think, with part of the whole identity thing, they also have a hard time fitting in. I mean, especially if, you're being adopted into a family of another race, there's, that whole, color aspect where, other people can notice, too. But just, fitting in with the other siblings and, figuring out your spot in the family, I feel like that's, a major struggle that most kids would take years to get into.
Well, I know me personally, I didn't really have that kind of problem because the only other sibling in the house was my sister, and she, too, is adopted. So I guess I could say I was lucky in that kind of situation to be able to avoid that.
So you were able to, link with her,
Yeah.
connect on that subject, right?
We just blended together, I guess. We talked a lot. We became good friends over time, so.
Kind of like one of the girls said in the interview, just because you share DNA with someone doesn't necessarily make them your family. And sometimes you can make the closest connections that make someone a brother or sister or a mom, a dad, uncle, and aunt that share no blood relation to you. And it just goes to show how an adopted family can mean just as much as a biological family.
Next, we would like to introduce you to our wildcard guest, Shayna, a student at St. John Vianney High School.
We asked her if she knew anyone who was adopted and how their adoption has influenced them.
Let's hear what she has to say.
One of my good friends was adopted. The cool part is you wouldn't know going over her house or just meeting her family that she was adopted. And that's what's really special about it, because her parents, they weren't able to have children and they wanted to be able to be a part of a family like that. They were able to make someone else extremely happy and be able to feel like they belong into a family. And I know my friend, it really impacted her life because having parents that you can look up to and model your life after and go to them for advice and have them be there for you and supporting you is something everyone needs. And not having that when she was younger was probably tough, being a part of a family, and I think that's the most important part of life.
As she was saying, accepting a new family is never easy.
However, the church can guide us in understanding its importance in providing a nurturing environment for children to grow.
We must realize that Jesus grew up in a family.
He was raised by parents, Mary and Joseph, to show us God's intention of the family unit.
While we believe that every child deserves to be raised by mother and father, things don't always work out that way.
Adoption is one beautiful way to provide a loving family for someone who otherwise wouldn't have one.
The Catechism of the Catholic Church explains,
where families cannot fulfill their responsibilities,
other social bodies have the duty of helping them and of supporting the institution of the family.
Adoptive parents respond to this call to support and grow their family through opening their hearts and homes to a new family member.
Sometimes adoptive parents are unable to have their own children, and God fulfills the desire to have a family through adoption.
He works through a myriad of details and people to bring adoptive families together.
Let's go back to our spotlight guest, Monique, where she talks about how now she sees her adoptive family as her forever family.
I think that being adopted is better in general because it means that you'll have a forever family and then you won't have the chances that you could become a homeless teenager, because once you turn 18 you age out of the foster care system, so you're left to your own devices. I was lucky that I didn't have to endure something like that. I was adopted at a young age and I've lived with them ever since, so I don't know what it's like to age out of the system. So I think that being adopted gives any child their best chance to reach their goals and to do the things that they dream to do. Knowing that I was chosen into this family means a lot. Out of all the children in that foster care system that they could have chosen, they looked at me and they chose me out of everyone, and they could have chosen a white child. They could have chosen any other color child, but they chose me and they wanted to give me my best chance. I felt a mix of emotions when I was adopted. I felt sad, I felt angry, I felt happy, confused. I think the whole idea of living with another family just didn't catch on for such a long time. Like, I remember I'd get out of the bathtub and put my shoes on and be prepared to have my parents come to pick me up, because I never thought that I'd be staying there. I always thought that it was just temporary. When the adoption happened, my parents made a big deal of telling me, like, making me feel like this is my home, we love you, you're going to be here for the rest of your life, and we don't want you to feel estranged, we don't want you to feel like you don't belong. And I think that made all of the confusion and the anger and sadness go away, and it just was one big feeling of just love and happiness. I think when I was adopted and I finally began to realize that I was a Pettit was when my last name was changed over. And when I finally got it changed, I went to the same dentist, the same pediatrician, and I went to the same school that my brother and sister went to when they were younger, so that definitely helped. The best part of being adopted is the idea that you're no longer alone. You're always going to have the same family that adopted you when you were like a young child or a teenager, and they will always love you for who you are, and you will never be different to them. You will just be their child, and they will do everything and anything they can for you. That's it.
I think it's truly amazing how her family made her feel so loved and secure and really wanted. And I think that's something that adopted kids really need. And I think that's amazing that her family did that.
She was definitely warmed into the family.
Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think? How does an adopted child enrich a family?
Well, I remember interviewing Monique, and her mom was home, and she said like how much of a gift from God Monique really was, because like it bonded the family.
If you're coming from another culture, then the family you're coming into, it can kind of teach them about what culture you are, and like they can learn new things through the child.
Well, also I feel that a family is like a team, and when you adopt someone or have a new kid, it's like adding a new member to the team, and everyone brings their own personality, their qualities, their traits. They bring themselves to the team, and I feel that's what makes a family whole. It makes a family what it really is and what it's meant to be.
It is all really a team effort. All the people in the family have to contribute. Now let's meet our next wildcard guest from St. John Vianney High School, Julia.
She will share the adoption experience of a camp counselor she knows and how it has been a blessing for her in her life.
She was adopted from South Korea when she was a child, and so was her brother. Her and her brother are not related biologically, but they are in the same family now. And she feels like her family that she isn't related to by blood is her real family. She also has an older sister who is her parents' actual child, but she is not. And she just really feels loved in her family. I know it's the best thing that's ever happened to her. They have actually gone back to Korea, and just to see what it was like, to see what it would be like if they lived there. And she's so much happier that she's adopted now. My cousin was adopted as a child from Korea, and my aunt and uncle got him off the plane when he was a baby, and they were so happy to have a child because my aunt is not able to have children herself, and they wanted to adopt someone from another country to give them a better life. And when they got my cousin Steven, they were so happy and so ecstatic to give someone a better life, and I think that's what they've tried to do his whole life. And now he's 22 years old, he's in college, and he has a life, and they're still as close as can be. He's an only child, but he feels loved, he feels like they're his real parents, and he doesn't think anything different.
It's great that adopted children can come from other countries and live a better life here in the U.S. When we look at the New Testament, we find in the story of Christianity that adoption actually plays a key role.
St. Joseph was not Jesus' biological father. Therefore, we can say that he adopted Jesus as his son.
He raised and cared for Jesus as if Jesus was his own flesh and blood.
When Jesus began his ministry publicly, he proclaimed to the world that we are adopted into God's family through baptism.
This is shared in St. Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 8.
For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear,
but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, by whom we cry, Abba, Father.
This word, Abba, actually translates to daddy.
God doesn't adopt us and ask that we refer to him in this super formal, impersonal sense.
He allows us to call him daddy to show the deep, intimate relationship he desires with all of his children.
Next, our spotlight guest, Monique, shares how she relied on her faith to provide closure on her relationship with her biological parents,
and how she has found peace and joy with her adopted family and a new understanding of God's plan for her.
I definitely rely on my faith a lot. I've relied on it through many struggles because I feel like without that higher power, without God, I would have fallen more times than I can count. And it took me a while for me to find closure with my birth family, because for a long time there was a lot of anger there because why didn't you keep me? Why couldn't you keep me? And then after that anger set in and I let it go, I realized that they wanted me to have the best life. That's what my dad told me at the courthouse. They wanted me to have the best life. So the importance of being adopted is that no matter what you come from, whether you come from being adopted from the womb or being adopted a few years later, every child deserves to have the best chance at life. And being adopted can give you those chances. It can give you that opportunity to kickstart your life and to follow your dreams. And you'll always have the support of your family behind you. I don't think I'd trade anything for $1 million. This life, so for my whole 18 years, despite the beginning, everything has been wonderful, and I've been given so many opportunities, and I don't think I would have ever had those without this experience and being adopted. I think to my biological parents, wherever they may be, I just want to say that thank you for deciding to put me up for adoption, even though it might have been the hardest decision for you. I think for my mom and dad now that I definitely want to say that I love them both, and that, you know, honestly, they could be out golfing, they could have retired, they could be living in like California, but they're still here and they're still raising me, and they made that decision together. And I think that is a very beautiful thing that anyone can do, and I'm very happy that they decided to do that.
That's a great story. How do we treat adopted children? Should we treat them differently? Do we?
Our cousin moved in with us when she was 11, and we were only, I think I was like 6 and you were like 5 or 4. And when we were little, we all used to like play, get together fine.
A lot of board games.
A lot of board games, yeah, and hide and seek and stuff. But as we got older, we kind of got a little mean. I mean, it might have been, the Parent Trap's fault, I don't know, but we started, playing all little pranks on her, and we just weren't really nice. And it just kind of grew more and more and more. And then all of a sudden, it was like she was just a stranger living with us. Like, she wasn't close with anyone in our family. I finally got to a point where I realized how terrible I was to her. So I apologized, and it meant so much to her. She was crying when I did. And now, she wants to be my friend. She wants to be part of my life. She wants to go get her nose pierced with me. She wants to go to the beach over the summer. She wants to do anything as long as we can try to make that bond that we spent 11, 12 years just like completely not acknowledging.
We should treat them like we treat other people. We shouldn't set them apart and treat them like they need extra help. We need to bring them in and treat them like they're people. The golden rule.
I think although we try to make adopted kids feel included and like they belong, I think we unconsciously sometimes set them apart. I know my cousin is adopted, and when him and his aunt came to live with us in the States for a couple months, I could tell by the way she treated him. Like, she would never scold him, or she'd let him get away with whatever he wanted. And I could tell it came almost from a sense of guilt that, that her child wasn't her own flesh and blood, it was someone else's.
Well, I know for me, my family, I know my dad would not let me get away with doing anything wrong. They would treat me special, but if I did something stupid or wrong, I would hear about it. Most definitely, I'd be punished, the whole routine. I think it's important to let the child have that kind of closure to them, to acknowledge that, okay, so I'm here now, this is where I am, this is my family. And
it shows that they care about you.
Exactly. It shows that they care about you. And by growing up with them in that kind of environment, by having them treat me how they would treat their own child, they really became an even closer family to me.
Finally, let's meet James, our last wildcard guest from St. John Vianney High School.
He'll relate his friend's experience of adoption and how it has been a huge positive in her life.
My friend was born in Vietnam, and she lived there for not even 2 years, and she was adopted, and it has made her life completely better. And she moved over to the United States when she was younger, and she's gone back to Vietnam, but she feels that she doesn't look back on it as a situation where her parents didn't want her. She told me that she believes that everything happens for a reason, and I believe that too. And now she is with her new family, and her life with her parents is amazing, and their family is just like anybody else's family.
Well, I feel with adoption, the thing is, when you adopt a kid, you need to be prepared for all the questions that they're going to ask, their curiosity. You need to be prepared to be there for them all of the time. And I think that comes with any kid. When the kid's adopted, you need to be ready to have some form of an answer when they ask, well, who are my birth parents? Or where are they? What are they doing? Why am I adopted? Just general questions that the adopted parents will need to have answers for.
I know there's this book out, I think it's called The Missing Piece or something, but this woman found out she was adopted, and she found her biological mother, and she found out she was a child of a rape victim. And when people asked her if she felt like bad that she wasn't conceived in love, she said, like, I was conceived in love. I was conceived in God's love. And I think it's so important to remember how crucial adoption is, because in a society where abortion is so easy to get, a woman has to be so brave to be on her own for those 9 months, and having the faith and the strength to endure that, and then to go through labor to bring a child into this world, it's like the most beautiful gift a person can give. And a lot of times I feel like an adopted child, they'll, when they feel like they're abandoned or whatever, they have to remember like what an incredible sacrifice their mother went through to have them.
I think adoption is such an amazing thing. I think it's important that we remove the stigma against adoption and that we promote diversity and like integrating minority demographics so that issues such like interracial adoption aren't issues anymore, and that we break down the barriers that divide us and like unite ourselves as Catholics.
Mm-hmm. Kind of going off of what Drew said, I can kind of relate to that even though I'm not adopted, because my mom is light-skinned and my dad is dark-skinned. So I'd be at school and my mom would come in to pick me up or something, and everyone would look at me and look at my mom and be like, are you adopted? And they would always ask that, like, every time she came in.
Yeah, there's this woman in my area. She has adopted 20 kids. And they're all different races, and she has had people ask her questions like, oh, why did you adopt so many kids, and they're of different races, and they're just making fun of her. But they don't get that she had the heart to adopt all those kids and give them a home. I just think it's really beautiful.
The adoption into God's family is critical for our life of faith.
The Catechism of the Catholic Church states that he who believes in Christ becomes a son of God.
This brotherly or sisterly adoption transforms him or her by giving him the ability to follow the example of Christ.
It makes him or her capable of acting rightly and doing good.
While adoption may seem like a different or exceptional way of belonging to a family,
in the Christian faith, it is essential. Everyone is adopted.
How can adoption in general be better promoted and help others recognize its beautiful gift?
We'd love to hear from you.
Contact us at realfaithtv.com.
Or share your thoughts with us on Twitter.
And we'll leave you today with this thought.
No matter what our family situation is like or where we find ourselves in life,
we can be sure that God will never, ever reject us or abandon us.
While others in our life might, he will be the unchanging, faithful Father in our lives.
Jesus said in the Gospel of John, chapter 3,
see what kind of love the Father has given to us,
that we should be called children of God.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on Real Faith TV.
God bless.